there's going to be some spoilers, and maybe we can open the segment by saying that there is going to be some spoilers. I believe, yeah, because we are going to talk about the ending, because the ending is part of the my criticism of this movie. Because I was having I had big expectations about that movie, mostly because of the Oscars, but also because it's Bali's favorite movie, at least for now. Like they watched it 4 or 5 times before watching it with me, and it was yesterday night or the night before. To start my discussion on everything, everywhere, all at once, I want to start by because I did some research before and I have my little notes, and it says the first point I had is that it seems, and I've seen that a lot, and maybe chat can confirm that a lot of adults don't get it. So I saw it every time I saw everything everywhere all at once, at least on social media. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, I want to have my parents, watch it, but they don't get it." Like a lot of people were sharing the fact that older people or people not from their generation, which is a generation that was born on the internet, didn't get the movie. I do think that this film does appeal more to a younger audience, and I do think as well that older people, and when I mean older is people who are not born with the internet, might not enjoy it as much. And one of the reasons is not only because of the themes, and we'll get back to that, but also that's one of the first things I spoke to Bali, I talked to Bali about, is the idea that it sounds a bit like it would be written for like young adults, like a YA, for two reasons I think. One of them is the in French it's called l'élément déclencheur, or the thing that starts the story or disturbs the narrative to start the story is the husband being like some secret agent kind of. And there will be spoilers. I said at the beginning I'm sorry, but like I have to talk about this. And the movie has been out like for a year. So the husband like is like an undercover spy in a way, which makes me like feel like it's a lot like a movie that you would see like, oh, my dog is a spy, or something like that. Is a secretly a spy. My dad is secretly a spy, and now I become a spy. You know, that's so it's kind of a bit like how I felt about it, and it didn't take me out of the story. It's just that it reminded me a lot of, that kind of narrative device of this person is secretly from this organization and now is dragging me into it. Yeah, Nanny is a spy. And the humor is very for young people as well, despite obviously being more adult and more, adult leaning, like more like sexualized humor at some parts. But for example, like the sausage fingers, which were like a huge thing, sausage fingers, uh, like, oh, it's so out there, it's so quirky, it's so random, and that random equals funny is a very more younger, maybe our generation, maybe younger than that. And when I say our generation, I'm 26. And I think just from those two themes, it's going to appeal more to like young adults. And I don't know if you agree with that, but in any case, I think the theme is more importantly related to young adults. And it's been talked about a lot, talking about how the multiverse is actually about the overwhelming, or the overwhelming feeling that it can give, that the internet can give to people, especially to people who were born within it. And the internet is great. You can discover all sorts of different perspective, opinions, realities, and all of that. But at the same time, being confronted with so much can be very overwhelming and anxiety inducing. And I feel like that's what the internet is like. That's how what the multiverse is referencing to. It's referencing to the internet. It's been talked about a lot online. The idea that the generational divide between the younger Joy and the older, what's her name again? Evelyn. There you go. I have someone whispering in my ear. The generational gap between Joy and Evelyn. There's always been a generational gap, but it's been exacerbated by the access to the multiverse, or in our terms, to the access to the internet. And Joy didn't ask for this. And in Alpha, Joy was forced into the internet in a way, into the multiverse, into like, being everywhere all at once, I guess. And she was forced into it. And I feel like a lot of us are not forced, but we're just confronted to that without really knowing or without really being equipped to confront all of that. And Evelyn is Alpha Evelyn probably wasn't aware, like, the fact that bombarding Joy with so much information, with so much possibilities, would create this monster or whatever. And I feel like this generational divide created by the internet is very, very important. And I'm not saying that, uh, older people cannot connect to younger people because older people cannot do internet. I know a lot of older people can do internet. And when I say older people, I just mean people who weren't born with the internet. They can be part of the culture. They can have, they can still be very connected and be really good with the internet. But us being born with it, we are molded by the internet. We're really good at it to a point where, like, for example, my job is on the internet. My job is talking to people on the internet. And what you're doing in your free time is talking to some guy in Canada who's talking to the internet, right? And this is a lot for a lot of people. It's our connection to the world. And it's kind of crazy to think about it, but like that's our interaction with the world. So it has a really strong importance to us, but to our parents, a lot, or parents or older people, they'll be like, all right, you stream? So what do? You just talk to yourself in front of a camera and people listen? A lot of people would ask you, why are you looking at someone talking to a camera, right? Like I don't know. I feel like this incomprehensibility is there. This theme is super important to explore, but there was another theme in the movie which I was super excited to see explored, and I've seen nobody talk about it. And that theme is again, generational gap, but between immigrants and children of immigrants. And we don't talk about it mostly because a lot of content creators that I watch online are white, and I wouldn't know about it because I'm white. But through interactions with people of color, mostly women of color, who their parents are immigrants, there is this strong dissonance between their experience of the world and their parents, especially for, yeah, like I said, especially for women of color. A lot of the times, their immigrant parents are more conservative, and their vision of the world is almost at odds with the experience that the child will have of the world. Your education, the people that you hang out with, even on the internet, a lot of it is on the internet. It's very liberal. It's very I don't know, liberating, and your parents might not have that same sense of values, and they think that you, as a child of immigrants, you are the problem. But you, as a child of an immigrant, know that your parents are actually the problem. They're not the norm. They think that you're weird. You want to have sex before marriage. You want to get a tattoo. Oh, you're queer. You're homosexual. All these things, they will say you're weird. There's something wrong with you. To a lot of conservative parents. Now, I don't want to generalize, but obviously not. But that experience can be shared by a lot of people of color, like I said, a lot of women of color. And it's super alienating, and it's super hard to communicate. Like, and that can also, that divide can also happen with conservative parents with more liberal children. But very often when someone is from, like, let's say someone is from America and is deeply, like, established in America, in the sense that they, that they're not immigrants, their values are very often molded to the community. So if you're conservative, a lot of times your community will be more conservative. But with the internet, again, it's making it harder for children to actually be molded by their conservative environment, and they're a lot more liberal because very often on the internet, liberal spaces are more, at least I think, are more prevalent. I'm happy. Some people are saying you are spot on. Thank you. Facts. um, and I think that especially for white people as myself, surprise, I'm white. It's super. It's such a slap in the face when you hear that the experiences of some people with their parents is almost unreconcilable because their parents are from like a complete like other world in a way. You know, your mother will tell you, "Oh, you can't have sex before marriage," while most people in in your school and your friends' family will all be fine with the idea of sleeping or having sex before marriage. And that's like one example, but there's so many of them. And uh, Evelyn does, talk about like does have those symptoms in a way, like the whole tattoo. Why are you getting a tattoo? This incomprehension. It's not Evelyn's fault, and it's not Joy's fault, but it's that divide between a generation, exacerbated not only by the internet, but by this immigrant experience. But anyway, I feel like the movie didn't really tie into that, or didn't really exploit that subject, or not exploit, but explored that subject uh, a lot. I was gonna say, if I was like a child of an immigrant parent, like I feel like I would like to see something more focused around the idea that, you know, my experience of the world is so different from the one of my parents because they were brought up in such a different way than I am. But in a way, we're all feeling that. It's just exacerbated, like I said. So let's talk about the ending. One thing I didn't necessarily agree with is because of the internet, they talk about nihilism a lot. Nihilism being like nothing matters, there's no point in the world. There's so many different options, so many different parallel universes that the one that you're living right now doesn't matter and it's all going to end anyway. So what's the point? The movie says that because, or at least the experience of Joy is that when you are faced with so much, overwhelming possibilities and like that, so much liberty in a way, you ask yourself, what's the point? Why am I being overwhelmed so much if I'm just going to die? We're all, it will be the end of it. And I don't think that's how, like, I do think a lot of people feel that, but I don't think a lot of people say that nothing matters, especially in terms of millennials. Because if we keep that's a bit of mischaracterization of nihilism. All right, well, I'm sorry. I'll say this: the whole idea. All right, I won't attach it to a to a philosophy because people will say I mischaracterize it. I'll say the whole idea that nothing matters. It's a core tenet or a core response to the overstimulation of the internet or the parallel alternate universes. Because of that, you turn into the idea that nothing matters and that what's the point of living? What's the point of experiencing all these things if at the end it doesn't matter? I think that not a lot of people actually feel that way on the internet. I understand it, but I think, especially in terms of if we take a generational lens to look at it, not a lot of kids actually feel like it doesn't matter. Like all the kids today are woke as fuck. They're the ones who actually care the most, I feel like. Yoav says they disagree, and I understand that, but I understand you disagreeing, but I do think that at least when you look at the difference between kids and their parents, I feel like kids care so much more about the state of the world than parents. Parents, at least it might be more informed by like my own experience and like the experiences of people that I know. So it might be skewed, obviously. But I feel like a lot of kids are more into criticizing the environment, like the whole environmental situation that parents just see as something that's happening. That's how the world works. And there's that, but there's also the whole idea of questioning like gender in general. Parents don't give a fuck. That's, they don't care. What does it matter anyway? But younger generations actually do care about gender. It can be, says Greta Thunberg. Absolutely. someone who actually cares. Parents don't give a fuck, lol. I mean, they do care because you're deviating from the norm. And there's a difference, Liam says. Yeah, there's a difference between not caring and things having no meaning and not having meaning. Paige says older people dream of the past too much. And that would make sense, right? Younger people care more about the future because they'll be the ones living it. And they'll be living with the consequences of the present that will affect their future. It's generalizations, of course, but I think there are patterns to it. Um, and I do feel like that there is this lack of meaning, but there's not this lack of care that is characterized by the movie. So I do think that young people are more engaged, and the internet exacerbates this engagement. There might be this feeling of being overwhelmed, as the movie suggests, but I do think that the internet actually encourages stimulation rather than this passive right, nothing matters because blah blah blah. My father a few months ago told me how now doesn't know if having kids was a good thing to do, seeing the world we're going into. He's been a leftist his whole life, but his optimism is diminishing. Yeah, I understand that. Like, my optimism is diminishing right now, so I can't imagine your father. And I do think optimism in general diminishes. And Darkwater says I want to respond to that because it's making me think. Like, the older I get, the less I care. The less certain I am of things. I wonder how Greta will feel in 20 years. But like, I don't think Greta is necessarily lacks doubt. I think it's normal to be doubtful, but it's more in the terms of action and actually doing things. You know, I did that. I talked about it in my video on Nerdwriter. Nerdwriter was like, I'm gives exactly this argument. The older I get, the less certain I am of things, and therefore it stops my ability of actually advocating for changes, because I'm never sure if the changes I'm advocating for are actually, like, I'm never certain that they're actually good. But the thing is, with that mentality, you'll never actually change anything because you're not advocating for anything, and that's just as dangerous as advocating for the wrong things, I believe. I don't believe in the security of the status quo, and I feel like that might be another problem. The security of the status quo is more appealing to older generations. I don't know. And again, very broad, painting the thing very broadly. But finally, I want to talk about the ending of the movie, which I found very underwhelming. Not overwhelming, underwhelming. The idea that the answer to this existential threat of not caring, of seeing all of this unfolding before you and thinking that your little individual experience doesn't matter, the answer to that is love. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't think love is the answer to nihilism, or to this idea that there's no meaning in the world. I think there's many ways in which you can find, it's not that you can find meaning, but that you can find not even a purpose, but a way to feel fulfilled, a way to make you to feel like you're growing, to feel like, and that may be a purpose in itself, right? But this idea that you're making the world better. Because when you say, like, I don't care about the world at all, and what does it matter? Like, you're still trying to avoid pain, for example. Like, someone who says, I don't, what does it matter what happens in the world, right? Like, if I chop their hand off, they're not going to be happy about it, and they're going to be very sad about it. And like, all of a sudden, the existence of their hand had a lot of meaning, and was like, it did matter a lot. So this avoidance of pain and pleasure, which goes back to like morality, and that was a whole thing last stream. But I do think that it matters, and trying to, to make the world a better place, even if the world's not gonna is going to one day disappear, like, inevitably. It's all about making sure, like, it's like playing a game in a way. At least that's how I see it. But that's the thing, they like, Yoav says, like, optimistic nihilism, like they just embrace the lack of meaning. But it's like, it's an embrace that feels very slave mentality in a way. Like, for example, Evelyn is very underwhelmed by the idea that she doesn't have the life that, she has one of the worst lives that was possible in, the combinations of choices that she could have had. She has the worst one in the sense that it's the least fulfilling. At least that's what it's implied in the movie. But she says, as long as I'm with my family, that's all I want. And it's super underwhelming because it's like, with what you have, do the best of what you can do, and that's the best that you can hope for. Is do the best with what you have. And like how I saw it, at least that's how I saw it, is be satisfied with what you have. Because it could have been something else for sure, but what you have is needs to be cherished because you're the only one who can feel it or the only one who can experience it. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It sounds super passive, and Yoav might disagree with me. I want some disagreements. How many times have you heard that we are in the worst timeline? Yeah, I know. And it's like, I feel like the answer of everything everywhere all at once is like, yeah, we might be in the worst timeline page, but at least we have each other. Fine, Finn. And it's like, all right, can't we like, couldn't Evelyn actually do something? Maybe like to become a super powerful, like she wanted to become a novelist. Maybe she could, become a novelist. I don't know. It's like, oh no, I'm just happy with what I got, my family. I'm happy to do taxes because that's what I was like not designed but like destined to do. I'm good bad says I didn't read it like that at all, honestly. Yeah, yeah, no, it's okay. I guess I was like in a very different mindset. I'm sure like if I had watched that movie in a different mindset, I would have enjoyed it. But I came it with like a bias already. The bias is Ballet really likes it for a specific reason, and the specific reason they liked it for was like the relationship between the immigrant experience between the parent and the daughter, and I was going in it for that. And at the end, nothing changes, and the mother is still like, "Hey, you should let your hair grow out," and it's like, why are you making these comments? And it's like the mother is still very judgmental and very, I don't know how to explain it. Like those kind of comments are not welcomed and don't like make for a very healthy relationship with your daughter, or with the in that case the the girlfriend of your daughter. And it's like, all right, so we didn't learn anything from that, did we? We just learned that, yeah, like my mom might still make comments that are unwarranted. And what if the mom like was homophobic, right? And it's like, what's the lesson that we have to take from that? Oh, my mom might be homophobic, but at least I have her in my life. And I don't know. Yeah, Jacques gives a good point. Is it passive? Acceptance of one's condition doesn't mean that you won't try to change your life. In this case, she finds purpose in her loved ones, and it serves as a basis for her to go forward. Yeah, but at the same time, like I don't know. It's like I don't know how much forward she's gonna go. I don't know how much like she expresses her will to go forwards after that. It sounded like I'm very happy with my daughter, and that's like period. And like I'm just happy that now I have a better appreciation of my husband as well, and things like that. And I don't feel like she's actually like going forward from there. At least that's not the impression I got from the movie, that there is a forward. Because even in like like I said, the comment about, hey, let your hair grow, was very similar to the comment of, hey, you got fat, you should get a slimmer. David Blanchard says, I see where you're coming from. I think this parallels my discomfort with Albert Camus' The Myth of Sisyphus. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I haven't read the Myth of Sisyphus in so long. Now I'll talk about that later. But yeah, and like the whole idea that we have to imagine Sisyphus happy, and that's like rebellion. But like this whole idea that being happy at the absurdity is the ultimate rebellion. That's good. But like in terms of an existential crisis, like existential fight or struggle, I feel like that can be fine, right? But in terms of making your own situation on a more personal level, just being trying to like be rebellious by being like, let's say you work a terrible job and you don't like it. Let's say you run a job, or you run a business that's failing and that you don't like. Now you have to do the taxes. Like, I don't think it's good to think that you have to imagine Evelyn doing taxes and she's happy. Yeah, Rocka Supreme. I think that's a good way to end it. After all what we said, I think one a good way to end it is through what Rocka Supreme says is, I wonder if a lot of the hype of this movie came from its aesthetics, less so any actual message. The Daniels were music video directors before this, and I do think it's about aesthetics, but I do think they also convey very very well the ideas that, or the themes that is presented, like the themes of everything everywhere all at once. The idea that, this overwhelming sense is beautifully conveyed throughout the movie, not just beautifully but actually conveyed, in the sense that you feel at times overwhelmed. There's so much going on, and like they're doing a really really good job at it. And because of that, it's a good movie in that respect. In terms of its conclusions, I'm less sold on it, but it's definitely still a beautiful movie, for its cinematography and for its direction. Less so for the movie, less so for the story. That's a good way to end the segment. So now we have an actual end of segment. And Rocket Supreme, good job. You were the comment to make it the end.